And speaking of the audience, let's take a question from our viewers right now. This viewer is asking from musicals such as Don Juan, even has to go to classics for inspiration. And as actors and producers, to what extent do you stay true to the original classics and to the spirit of innovation and imagination at the same time? This is something that we were touching on earlier. John?
Well, sorry, can you just...
So the question is, when music, because Don Juan is obviously an adaptation of an original classic, and so when we're doing adaptations, to what extent do you stay true to the classic, and to what extent do you innovate?
Well, that's a good question, and I think it's also that's a powerful thought generating from the mind of the composer at that moment. I do believe that for example, Notre Dame de Paris will last forever because the thematic, the points touched by that show are always modern, and people will always tend to identify themselves, in the character they are seeing on stage, and especially so. I do believe that the only thing that a musical composer should kind of keep always on mind nowadays is to provide a strong identity to every character of the show. And this is what, for example, I do really love about Don Juan, because every character has a proper, solid journey. So, every female on stage has an incredible and different path, and the spectators tend to identify themselves. Oh, it happened to me too. Oh my God, how powerful is this woman, And same is for every character. And that's very, very important, because then you can really have people, desiring and yearning to come back and see the show again.
Well, it's a very well-rounded character, all of the characters in the show. And what about for you, Laurent?
Yeah, always the same question is, classical are great. The most of the French musical are inspired by classical characters, or, so. You talk about Notre Dame de Paris, that's true. What created the longevity of this show is also the arrangement of the music. There's no period. You don't know when it could have been created, 20 years ago, or maybe one year ago.
Yes.
You don't know, because they choose some instruments without age. It's when you hear really the arrangement is just wonderful, beautiful, and terribly not time. How is it in French?
Not obsolete, or
it will never be. And for Mozart, another example, I think that the composer and author say, okay, if Mozart were born now, what kind of music he would do? So that's why they don't want to follow the classical way. They try to find a Mozart who could born maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and if he was born there at this time, he would become a rock star. He would create rock songs, and so they mixed both, and we have this version of Mozart. So, voilà, that's my way of vision. You have to evolving.